Being in the food production business is not easy, but the opportunity is enormous. The Two Cowboys have been on a journey for the last 3 years to tell the stories of the producers, the people that make things, the value creators, the value adders, the foundation of our society. And we were fortunate this year with Alberta Pork to get an inside track to the opportunities of what it takes to produce good quality pork right here in Alberta.
I think at the end of the day, if we look at what it is that we're creating in this industry, we're creating food. We are actually, raising something that's natural. We're taking it all the way through a number of steps. And the two main players that actually produce this product, that get it to the doorstep of where it will start to be consumed, are the two who are paid the least. And I think if we could come together a little bit better between the packer and the producer, and it doesn't have to be integrated, I think there is a good opportunity for relationships. And I think buyers, at the end of the day, the real people who really want to see something done, are starting to grasp onto that and seeing that and saying, there's a story here. There's something I can talk about. There's passion. You can see these people really work together, and they really have a desire to get that end product the best it can to that consumer of mine, my customer, my person who wants to have that experience of the best pork in the world, which comes from here. Somebody asked me, can you describe Alberta Pork, like the product itself, in one word? And I would just say premium, and when you look at it, it is the premium product that's sought out everywhere. And if you look at how much we sell outside the country, where people pay, versus what we use in the country, that is the key indicator. I think sometimes you have to ask somebody who knows nothing about your business to come in and have a look at it. I started working with the organization itself when it came to environmental issues. In part of my career, I was a funder. And so I had a chance to work with my predecessors, kind of had a little inside track about what they did, have a different perspective and say, well, why do you do that? Alberta Pork, in a nutshell, really is the voice of the industry. It's a not-for-profit organization. They're elected by the 740-ish producers who are registered in the province. In saying that, it operates as the body to address whether it's government issues, regulatory burdens, those types of things, that we can help ease that problem with our producers. It also acts as the voice to the public and to media. So if there's concerns, issues, that's what we're here for, answer those questions. You try to have, as an organization, a number of key issues and key points that you want to get across. They're not our messages as employees, they're the messages of the producer through the board, who's their elected officials. So they pass those messages to us, we develop them together, and then they become the message of the industry. There's many other things we do as well that most people never see, and that's helping our producers with quality assurance, helping them out with new programs, looking for the latest research, funding that research, delving into issues with our commodity partners, like so others that are other species, whether it's livestock or crops, to address issues that are fundamental for all of us. It also allows us to work with the public on showing why pork is probably the best protein. If not, do I sound jaded? Probably the best protein in the whole world for you to eat. Everybody in this province, everybody in this country should look at that and go, wow, this is an amazing product. How come I can't get it all the time?
I think we're recognized as the #1 supplier around the world. About 25% of the pork consumed in New Zealand is from Canada, the same in Australia. In fact, there's more Canadian pork eaten outside of Canada than in Canada. People don't realize that. And that grew and grew and grew, and eventually into what we have today, where we're selling to probably 90 or more countries throughout the world. The value to the producer is it's helped sustain a market. I could go to Seattle and tell you which pork on the shelf was Canadian. People have said, well, we like your beef and so on, but we love your pork because we can't buy anything quite like Canadian pork.
Hogs, going back decades and prior to the inception of Alberta Pork, were called mortgage lifters. Back in the day, a lot of farms had, a few cattle, a few hogs, maybe some chickens. As farms grew, labor became more difficult. Families were getting smaller, and the economics of farming became more and more difficult. It's an industry that just continues to change. As a hog producer, I've been involved for years. The productivity has increased remarkably. The number of pigs per farm has gone up. We think the quality of pork is better now as well. Alberta Pork looks after a number of functions, really. It also has a health function. People there that are very involved in helping us as producers deal with potential diseases that might come here. With the amount of interchange of people and goods and feed in the world from one country to another, the transport of disease is so readily achievable. As numbers have become larger, if a farm gets hit with disease, the cost is that much greater. And it used to be that farmers would sell hogs one to the other, and hogs would be sold in auction markets. It used to be that at the Pork Congress there was a hog show there. But now people are extremely conscious of biosecurity. You know, even people coming from other countries who want them to go through a period of time before they come back to the farm. It's very, very different from what it was.
We got suited up because this is not normal cowboy attire. Lori, how important is this whole biosecurity thing for you guys?
Well, it's huge, and it's important for the animals in our facility. They live in this facility, and we don't want to bring anything from the outside in that's going to cause them to get sick or disrupt their production. So yeah, it's a big part of the industry. They sleep here, and we got an electronic sow feeder, which is feeds them precisely. It's all computerized. The land around us that you saw, we source our straw from our own farms. So we don't outsource straw from someone we don't know. We have our own feed mill, and we source our grain from our farm families. So we can trace everything right from putting the manure into the ground, to growing the crops, to bringing it in here and right back through the system. Hogs have always been in my blood. I just love the animal, and I love the industry, and I love the people that are passionate about raising pork. And that's what it's about. Pigs are pigs, people are people, but you have to love what you do. And I just have loved the pig right from when I was growing up with it.
Darcy made a very important comment in an interview for us. He said that you cannot be successful as a pork producer if you don't look after your animals, if your animals are not healthy, if they're not content, if they're not relaxed, if they're not being looked after. And I guess that's probably the biggest driver is, your animals are healthy and content because they produce well.
That's right, and the pigs are growing well. And as producers, that's very important. If I didn't have a passion for the animal, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. It's the passion that drives every one of us farmers to be here. We're not laying on the beach in Hawaii. We're in the barns every day, sometimes at night if there's issues. And we're taking care of these gals and guys and everybody involved. It's an important part, the most important part.
I'm at the University of Alberta, and I'm part of the Department of Agricultural, Food and Nutritional Science. I'm a professor, and my discipline is swine nutrition, but I'm also chair of the department. So I engage with industry partner groups such as Alberta Pork as a researcher, but also as a department chair. Alberta Pork plays an important role for the industry as in priority setting, for example, for research. And then, of course, part of what Alberta Pork does as well is actually play a role in funding some of that research. And then the third component is then Alberta Pork is also a publisher of the Canadian Hog Journal. And in that journal, we as researchers can also contribute articles so that the research findings that we discover can be published in that journal. It's kind of a circle, right? So funding goes one way, and then information should go back the other way, informing pork producers about some novel things that can be done on the farms. The relationship between Alberta Pork and the University of Alberta precedes me. That has already been happening for decades. There is an interplay with getting better genetics, better feed efficiency of the pigs, keep on seeing improvements of that over time. But then with those improvements, you also need to have a different diet so that the new genotypes can meet their nutrient requirements, that the nutrition can support the better genetics to enhance profitability of the swine industry. Here in Western Canada, we're talking about wheat-based diets, we're talking about barley-based diets, we would be talking about canola meal, we would be talking about field pea, lentils, chickpea, as opposed to in the United States where you would be talking about corn, you would be talking about soybean meal as the most important ingredients in the swine diets. So the ration here is quite different compared to our colleagues in Eastern Canada and in the Midwest of the United States. We actually have an advantage here on quality of the pigs that we produce, pigs that be produced by these Western Canadian diets, these barley-based and wheat-based diets. They really give this nice color to the pork, and that actually will allow us to catch a premium price if we can reach for example, the markets that exist in the Pacific Rim.
For us, it's been always about the farm, but we've taken it downstream to actually have a pork processing plant where we harvest pigs and cut them into meat, and we use the pork from our organization, our farms, and our meat plant to make what we think is the best quality in the world.
When we got into the pig production and the pig genetics business, we wanted to ensure that the people that we were marketing product to were able to benefit well with the value of that product. And in order to ascertain how good the product was, it was logical for us to be not only monitoring performance on the farms, but also to understand the meat quality and the attributes there, and to be able to line up the different genetic material that we had in order to match market opportunities for the product. And then, of course, the best way of testing the product value at the end is what the consumers are willing to pay for and how they differentiate. So at the same time is to provide us more diversification in the business and more stability of the income, so that sometimes when the farm business is struggling a little bit, the other side could actually offset that and there'd be some balance to it. So it was really a farm-forward initiative that is intended to be able to provide superior quality product to the consumers at each stage of the chain, if you like.
You have to contribute to the industry. It's that relationship that's beyond the written contract and things like that. It's a relationship that says it's a mutual beneficial relationship, and it's easy to say. People always say win-win, but in our case, it's important that we're successful. It's also important that whoever we deal with is successful, because that's the long-term relationship building, and I think it has evolved a lot. Right now, we think that it's an important role to be able to advocate for the pork industry. Food production in Alberta should be growing, and we should be a world power in Canada from a food standpoint. I think there's also things around the social license that people talk about on farming and pig production, and I think there's a role to play on educating people where we can that want to be educated, can't educate the people that don't want to know. We really work closely with Alberta Pork and the Canadian Pork Council and Canada Pork International to portray and show the quality and high quality that pork can be, and how affordable it is. I think that's one thing that's really greatly missed in their industry right now, is that pork is a high quality protein product that is healthy for you, much lower cost than beef or chicken in terms of what it can deliver, and it's just an untold story, and that's an area that I think we need to keep on getting the message out there.
For me to make the best pork butt into pulled pork, what is the secret that Alberta Pork advocates out there? How do I do that? What's the strategy?
The first thing for me is like some good smoke, really low heat, let it sit for a long time. We try to do a good 12 hours anyhow if we can, let it sit. Try not to get too technical, just put a few ingredients on, like make a nice simple rub, and then you get a nice bark on it. When you pull it, you don't need a bunch of sauces and stuff. If you want some sauce, just go really light, because what you want to do is just really taste the pork too.
Alberta Pork is, my opinion, the best in the world, and we've had a few. Keep it simple, relax a little, let the pork do the talking.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely, you got it.
The organization itself has spawned a lot of leadership in the meat industry. I mean, everybody I know who went through Alberta Pork went on to do great things. And I attribute that back to the leadership, the philosophy, and the attitude of the people at Alberta Pork when I worked there. I mean, they were really aggressive, really innovative, and you had the room to succeed, but you also had the room to try some things that maybe didn't work. I started out as a merchandiser, and they weren't exactly sure what they wanted. They had a concept of a program called New Fresh Pork, and it was based on export quality pork being sold in Canada, which is totally innovative. I mean, we're still talking about things like this today. premium quality products, and this was premium quality Japanese pork. It was being sold, it's from Canada, being sold in Japan. And they wanted to build a market for that in Canada to get a premium for producers. And it wasn't just selling the quality of the meat, they wanted a whole new set of cuts, new ideas, new merchandising ideas. Basically, Japanese quality pork is selected for certain attributes that the Japanese are willing to pay a premium for, and that's everything from, like when you look at the quality of the meat, so you're looking at marbling, color, the firmness, the texture, and of course the flavor. On top of that, it's workmanship and craftsmanship, which is the other side of the equation. So it's not just having the best pork. How are you cutting it? How are you trimming it? How are you packaging it? How are you presenting it to that end user, that importer distributor, and then finally to the end user customer? And it's funny, a lot of the retail stores would say all the very best pork goes to Japan, which in fact was the truth. So the challenge was, all right, we've got some of the best pork in the world. Can we build a program, support the program, and market it in Canada? The philosophy was, let's create the demand, which would send the economic signals back to the meat packing level and then also back to our producers for them to make the genetic changes, feed changes to put more of this pork up so that it would be available to the meat packing industry. That was the philosophy. Both the Canadian beef and the Canadian pork industry have focused in on going after the higher end markets, finding those customers that are looking for something better, and then offering a package that is going to meet those needs. And again, it's not just meat quality, it's also workmanship and business service. So Canadians have a different way of doing business. It's different from some of our big competitors. And it's funny, we run into the same competitors everywhere we go, including Canada. So the people we compete against in Japan also sell their products here in Canada. So we compete everywhere for market share.
One of the things that in today's world we tend to do is be reactionary. What we need from any producer organization and what Alberta Pork is trying to do is to be in a position to be able to influence the decision makers with respect to the rules of the game. And that can be domestic production rules, it can be regulatory rules around how we actually process and produce our product, and it also is the rules that says, okay, internationally, we need to be strong and we need to be proud because we do a great job here, and we don't need people in our own country, whether they're regulatory or otherwise, creating barriers for our product that is desired in the world. We're not pushing it someplace that doesn't want to have it. There's all kinds of opportunity for it. We just need to be able to have the facilitation through thoughtful processes and policies to allow that to happen, and it'll flourish.
I think that the detachment from rural and urban has continued to divide, so people just don't understand agriculture as much as they used to when 50% of the population was connected either through family or others to agriculture, and that's not the case anymore. So we should actually have the ability to say it's a great industry to be in, be proud of where we're at, be proud of growing this product, and have the capability. We've got water, we've got land, and we've got energy, and those are the three things that goes into food production, and we should value add as much as we possibly can so that we keep as much value in the Alberta scene as we possibly can.
The trend in terms of media and communication and perception has gone so far over to the louder I speak, the more I get to gain, and the lack of real understanding or depth of understanding of what the processes are. So when we have people talking to us about sustainability, I'm pretty sure they're not growing the things that they eat.
It's not easy. It's not easy being a pork producer. You're always faced with various threats, disease, and other factors sometimes that aren't controllable. There's always something around the corner that you have to be prepared to fight.
By not being the biggest and by not being the cheapest, that can set you aside to be exclusive. And that's really the position that the Canadian pork and the beef industry has taken, is that the product is a better quality, it's a great value, and it is exclusive because there is only so much of it. When you're halfway around the world and you're sitting in a boardroom and the customers are telling you how amazing your product is, in terms of meat quality and then also yield. So they're saying we can actually make more money with the specification you're putting in the box because of the great job you guys do. That feels pretty good.
What's your favorite cut?
Belly. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you on that one, but it's good to see how you look after your animals. And it's even more impressive to see how you got the Cowboys cleaned up, because that's really important. Thanks for doing it.
I took this position because I felt this was the best product. But I look at it and say, it is the #1 protein in the world. It is likely, in my mind, the best product in the world right here. And we have nothing but opportunity. The world is growing in population, and the desire to have great products is all around us. This is one of those great products that people want. And so if we're doing well together, we will just do better into the future.